Today we have got fantastic speakers with us, Salim, Elizabeth, and Smriti. Today we'll be talking about different learnings from the health tech industry overall, right from the 3D printing to the surgeries to the marketing techniques which are being implemented in the health tech industries. And today we've got fantastic gurus who can teach a lot of things to us on the health tech journey and talk about their journeys as well. As part of our Global Health Tech Summit, today is day 4 of this summit. And as our mission has been to help India become a first world nation by helping its entrepreneur protect their IP and help them understand leverage the IP. As part of that mission, we are conducting this Health Tech Summit, where we want to educate as many health tech enthusiasts, entrepreneurs, founders, and the marketing minds so that they can create a wave of innovation across the industry and help globally the countries and the people who are suffering from different challenges in the health industry to overcome those challenges. So today we've got Salim, Elizabeth, and Smriti. Thank you so much, guys, for coming on board. And I'm sure the next 1 hour is going to be fantastic, and you guys will not shy away from giving any wisdom which is required for anybody out there who's still starting their journey, their health tech journeys. And I'm sure the lessons which you will be shared on the platform is going to be of great value to all of them. So let me start introducing Smriti today. So Dr. Smriti Zeinveld is the founder and president at Lazarus 3D. She holds a PhD degree and she's been named as a researcher in dozens of publications so far. And her keen interest has been human genetics and 3D printing. She's passionate about leveraging 3D printing for innovative medical technologies, which enhances patient care and surgical outcomes. Smriti, thank you so much for coming on board. We would love to know more about your vision and mission at Lazarus 3D. What keeps you going? What's your why?
Thanks, Priyank, for having me. And thanks, everyone, for joining here. It's a pleasure to be here. The vision of Lazarus 3D is very single focused. The vision is to help improve patient safety and drive better care for patients undergoing surgical treatments today. So, the problem that we had identified early on is that there are often risks and complications tied to surgical care. And when you ask the surgeons, why is this the case? Well, the answer is that they're doing their best. And unfortunately, their reliance on limited knowledge from, 2D information, MRIs and CTs, obstructs their ability to create a plan and let alone test it before they operate. So we created a platform called PreSure, the preoperative surgical rehearsal platform, that allows surgeons to not only realize something in 3D where they can visualize it in their hands, but also they can exercise their plan before they operate, because the model that we 3D print are synthetic soft polymer models that cut and bleed realistically. So for the first time ever, now surgeons have the ability to do it once before they operate on their patient. So it's going from none to one. And that's the breakthrough that we created. And it's been a very fortunate journey for us to be a part of those patients' treatments that the surgeons are providing this elevated care for today.
Excellent. I mean, you touched upon a very great point, saying that now surgeons have the ability to actually visualize things and even try their things out, do the experimentation before they actually go and perform surgeries to the patient as well. Now, I want to move to Salim and quickly want to introduce Salim, who has been a surgeon himself, has treated more than 6,000 plus patients, done so many surgeries. He's now co-founder and chief medical and innovation officer at Reveal Health Tech. This is the first ever time, I've heard chief medical and innovation officer combined. Salim has been serial entrepreneur, investor, been surgeon himself, and is clearly passionate about medical health tech. So I want to understand from you, Salim, what's the reason behind maintaining a library of 3D models, which are more than 3,500 plus in your home? What inspires you to have that particular library in your home?
So you're referring to my the fact that I, as a surgeon, leverage the technology of 3D printing, similar to what Lazarus is doing, but not at the full extent, right? So I was limited by just the bony models. But yet, because I focused on rare tumors in pediatrics, I found that having nothing to something was very valuable for education, right? So educating the patients and the families, engage them, so they learn about the anatomy, they learn about where the tumor is relative to other components, and also for teaching other residents and fellows, for them to see the actual scale. The issue is most doctors operate on adults. And when you look at a 2D image, especially a digital image, you can zoom in, zoom out, and you lose sense of the proportionality. But it's fundamentally different when you hold a skull of a child who is 4 months old, right? The relative proximity of lesions and so forth. So this library that we have is really a library. It's a privilege to have been able to serve these patients, and it's trying not to forget the learnings and try to pass that on to everyone else. So that is the reason why we have this library and the power, and why I'm actually very bullish as well on this idea of rehearsing and leveraging technology for education.
Excellent, wonderful. Can you give an access to Smriti to your library?
Sure. We can take that offline for sure.
I think that all the work that Salim has done and all the work that we're doing is bespoke. It is for that upcoming patient's, a personalized treatment. And so looking at cases retrospectively for us is a learning, it's a reference point. And often when a similar case comes up, we look back at the prior cases of the similar nature and sort of, find commonalities, but that's rare. I think most of the cases we're doing are fairly unique. And so, collaborating with Salim obviously would make logical sense. But, I want to hear more about what Reveal Health Tech is doing.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer it now. Reveal Health Tech is very simple. Our goal is to unlock the role of technology in advancing healthcare. And the issue that I found over the past 2 decades was that it was very difficult to find technology partners who understood the nuances of healthcare delivery. And so what we're doing is we're a tech service company that helps enable companies, hospital systems, pharma companies, and payers really build out tools and technologies that are right for the clinical setting. And we do that with multiple different steps. And one of them is integrating the clinical perspective systematically into our software development lifecycle. And I can talk more about that later, but really we just want to unlock the role of technology in this space.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Salim, for answering that and providing some more information about Reveal Health Tech and your role there. Let me also introduce Elizabeth Saucus, who's an owner of Health Tech Discourse company. She's a creative brain in the panel discussion today. She's been providing her creative strategies to the medical healthcare industry overall. She's from Brazil, and now she's been into Michigan for more than a decade now.
Years.
Yeah, more than a decade already. One interesting thing I noticed on your LinkedIn profile, Elizabeth, is that when I was browsing through your profile, I noticed a specific section which is experiences. And there I could see 28 more experiences. So can you please tell us what's it's all about, and like how many 28 experiences already? We want to know how all of these experiences are, what these experiences are. Can you please explain those things to us?
Yeah, absolutely. First, just thank you for having me today. Okay, yeah. I'll do. So like I said, I'm originally from Brazil. I have been here in the US for the last 12 years. In Brazil, I was a project manager for nonprofit organizations, and so I had some different organizations, so different experiences. Coming here to the US, and I ended up coming here. Like my husband is from here, so that's like he fell in love. A whole love story, and that's how I ended up here. And so I went back to school, and I so I got into the whole healthcare to study So I went to study, got a master in Brazil. I have an MBA in project management. So I came here, got an MBA in healthcare administration. Recently finished an MPH in public health. And so basically, like while going to school, I had some like a different work experience. I did some internships in hospital, worked as a nursing assistant in some time to get that punchline experience in healthcare. And then like I have this whole, on the side of all that, I always had a lot of passion for writing, for the whole communication. And so yeah, about 6 years ago, I started the Health Discuss. Initially just doing freelancing, medical writing, and then I switched that as into healthcare marketing. And that's how, what I do. I'm a healthcare market consultant. I work with, I'm specialized in helping healthcare organizations with complex content problems and provide them with content solutions.
So why do you think, Elizabeth, the healthcare industry requires content marketing? What's the need?
Because today, especially today with the whole advance, right, of the whole technology and where we are heading in the future with the healthcare, with the whole innovation, artificial intelligence, all that, it is that we still have a whole gap in terms of the access of healthcare here and even the levels of health literacy. Here in the United States, it's about 130 million people have low level of health literacy. So that they have a hard time, they struggle to access the information, to understand it, to make well-informed decisions. And then we get the piece of the digital health, the digital technology, and the digital health literacy. So that the part of the communication is really important. Okay, we have all this technology, and that's to benefit the patients. So how can we communicate it, and how can we help them to better understand and really use that? Right, and that's our role that the healthcare organizations play in helping the patients, benefit the patients. So that's where the whole communication comes in, and that's why I work with the healthcare organizations to help them, and then I work with different types of healthcare organizations, but like lots of my clients are in the whole health tech space.
Excellent. I mean, you touched upon a very right point that there are these technologies and there are people who do not even know about these technologies. So writing content which actually is able to tell them the correct story and make them connected about the technologies and also improve the literacy of the patients is something which you're trying to do at the Health Discourse. A great cause, great work. And I'm sure your marketing strategies will also help Salim and Smriti in later point of time, and we will got to learn more about you as well. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that. Smriti, my question to you is this, pretty simple. You have had fantastic academic career. You hold PhD, you have multiple research papers as well. How do you look at entrepreneurship as a challenge, and why did you even start entrepreneurship journey? What's your why?
That's a good question. So when I started my PhD program at Baylor College of Medicine in my first year, I was asked if I wanted to reconsider that and consider a MD PhD instead. So at that time, pretty early on, it was just a couple of months into the program, I was shadowing surgeons. I was asking questions to medical students and fellows and residents as well. Baylor is a very large medical school. And so I had a lot of opportunity to engage with people at different stages of their careers that have gone through the MD path. And so what I had learned is that surgery excited me most. And what I had also learned is that it's one of the most challenging areas in medicine. So I dove deeper into it, and I started looking into how they train and how they learn and how they get good at what they do. And unfortunately, through those learnings, I discovered that training today is inadequate and subpar, and that trainees deserve better and surgeons deserve better. And those technologies are lacking, which is why they have not been able to take advantage of it. So instead of going down that training path myself, I decided to create a change and bring that change to the future of healthcare, which is what I have achieved. With regards to entrepreneurship and its challenges, I think, no matter what your background is, entrepreneurship will always be challenging. It will always have its unique nuances depending on what your industry is, depending on your background and etc. But that's what entrepreneurship, that's what entrepreneurs do. It's to embrace those challenges and appreciate them and learn from them. So I have made so many mistakes, and it's been an exciting learning curve. Obviously, overcoming that, you can only do that through experience, and there is no substitute for that. As is also the case in surgery, you learn from experience, as Salim has pointed out. I think that for me, I had I had a really nice experience when I was a child. My family, it's multi-generational entrepreneurs, and they have had a family business, so it's a bit different, but they started it from nothing. And so growing up, even as a child, I got to observe that, and really, I was involved with their marketing and their logo designs and looking at that as a child. I didn't have much to offer, but it was still good to have that exposure, I would say. With Lazarus, really it was a no-brainer. I think that I could have gone down the academic path where I, had great interest and accomplishments in gene therapy and gene editing. I just knew that Lazarus was more of an immediate impact and a more direct impact, that if I didn't do it, I wasn't sure anyone else was going to do it. And also given that we had invested significantly at that point in the tech development, it only made logical sense to push that forward.
Excellent. Great journey so far, Smriti. Many congratulations on a fantastic career as well. I mean, right from academic to the entrepreneurship. And you summed it up pretty nicely that entrepreneurship runs in your DNA. Right from the early childhood, you have been seeing how the challenges were overcome by your family. And now you're using all of those knowledge and the wisdom of and collective intelligence of so many generations, which is helping you not only at Lazarus, but also help you, of course, in your academic studies as well. Great take. You touched upon a great point, and you mentioned about how Lazarus is actually helping the future of health tech evolve. So I want to understand from Salim on this. Salim, what's your take on AI? And I mean, now it's a buzzword, but as a chief medical and innovation officer, how do you look at AI, and what's the future of health tech, in your opinion?
Sure. So I want to make two comments regarding what Smriti said. There's two things that she pointed out. One is you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's a characteristic you have to have. And second, you have to have this sense of what is the nature of your responsibility. She said that if she didn't do it, no one else would do it. So those are the two pivotal kind of qualities, I think, that allow people to do entrepreneurship. Otherwise, if you want to be comfortable, do things easy, you can easily stay within academia or a certain, within a certain framework. Now, when it comes to AI, AI in healthcare has been around for a long time. Obviously, there's been a shift. And the shift is because of the large language models. And that is critical because for the first time, we can interact in a natural way with technology, right? In the past, the AI in healthcare was in academic halls and in research labs and corporations, but very few people could access it. In November of this past year, when people were able to experience ChatGPT, it just opened their mind of the possibilities. And this kind of the qualities of, and there's multiple factors that played into it, right? The multimodal nature of it. But fundamentally now, there's a second layer that can help augment technologies that currently exist. So think of robotic process automation. Robotic process automation has been around for a long time, but it's been very rigid and time-consuming to set, and it doesn't handle exceptions. Well, healthcare is all about exceptions, right? So, you can't model out every single pathway. But now you're able to handle those exceptions and handle it in a natural way with coordinators. So it's going to be fundamentally very different over the next couple of years. The challenge is the absorption of this from the healthcare side, right? There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of concerns. There's a lot of extremes of thought, right? From, oh, does this mean that doctors will not be needed? So there's job security fears, all the way to, fears regarding security. And just today, IBM announced that they're going to make their AI models transparent and they'll take on legal responsibility. Because one simple question is, if I'm using a generative AI model and it produces data that's incorrect, who's legally responsible, right? So
Yeah.
IBM is owning this. And I think fundamentally, the thing that I think that's really interesting is if you step back, we have to leverage AI because there's too many people in the world suffering, right? The question
Right.
is, if we don't, what happens? But then the other question is, how do we educate everyone, right? Everyone, the public, all the nurses and doctors. So how do we facilitate a discourse that's healthy and that allows
Mhm.
people to get a framework of how to move forward versus the current nature, which is dichotomous? So those are kind of the bigger questions, I think, the bigger challenges we have up front. And this, if we don't solve this in the next 6 months, 8 months, unfortunately, we will have disasters that will then force us to rally around to try to solve. So that's kind of some of the thoughts regarding AI in healthcare space.
Great point. I mean, I really like the point which you mentioned about generative AI model and the legal responsibility the companies are now taking to ensure that whatever the Gen AI models are providing, it's all verified. Because if I want to type on anything on Google and ask if I've got even a cold or any issue, Google is going to lead me to a cancer. So in today's day and age, people cannot just search for any issues which they have got in their body and just cannot rely on AI. And I'm sure with more education, more trust will also start to develop with patients as well as the clinicians, surgeons, the doctors, and the entire hospital ecosystem as well. And good points, Salim. Thank you so much for that. I want to understand from Elizabeth now with the LLM models and ChatGPT being out there. How do you look at content creation? Is it an helpful friend for you, or is it a threat to you?
I think it is helpful. With the ChatGPT, with the models for the communication, I think it is helpful. It doesn't to be it doesn't like in terms of the writing. It doesn't be it is give you insights, helpful, and it helps to automate some small tasks. But like in more complex type of especially content, it's in more complex type of material, in more complex projects. Yeah, you still need that. You still are going to need the human to do the research, to check the data, to make sure if it's peer reviewed, the evidence, right? Look at all of the quality of that. So I think it's I think SDI is it comes to helping in the production of content and the information, right, to the communication.
Honestly, you think it's an helpful friend which will help you to accelerate your content creation and dissemination journey as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like small tasks. Or if for social media, like I'm going to create a larger content piece, a more complex one with more information. Like for when we go break down in smaller content pieces that I'm going to put out there with the inputs of the ChatGPT, all that. With the tools, I can help to disseminate a lot faster. So I think it's coming to help.
Excellent, fantastic. Thanks for sharing your views, Smriti. When it comes to 3D printing overall, I mean, it's been there for almost a decade now, but the adoption has still not kicked in. What, according to you, is the market potential or the market size of 3D printing, and specifically in the surgical industry, the industry which you have chosen of creating these surgical models? How challenging is it to survive in this particular domain itself?
Yes, so 3D printing technologies in healthcare have, the adoption of the first platforms go back, a couple of decades, I would say. The reason that there has been a resistance, I would say, or a lack of adoption is because of the fact that the 3D printers, they're a capital investment. They can range from, $250,000 to as low as a few $100s. And so it's not just that, it's the fact that you have to then hire the people that have the technical skills and knowledge to maintain those printers. You need to hire the designers to create the design. In the medical realm, you need to have radiologist effort, or, radiology specialists that may be non-radiologists that still have to put in their time to do the analysis. And then they're usually in this space, because it is driving patient care, you want to make sure whatever is being done through GMP manufacturing with a quality management system in place. You want to make sure that everything is verifiable and traceable, and that it's, at the end of the day, accurate. And so all these aspects of, the work that could be done is, I would say, a little bit challenging for hospitals. And so even though some or few handful of hospitals, I would say less than 1% of hospitals today have purchased 3D printers or may even have licenses to software for design and data analysis, they're not able to really maximize the value of it, because even if they had 1 or 2 3D printers, the facilities cost, the overhead expenses for managing that, the personnel expenses, it's just, it adds up. And so because of those reasons, I think it's been a burden for the industry overall. And so though 3D printing manufacturers have, followed this business model of selling 3D printers into the hospitals or the health systems, I think unfortunately, surgeons and doctors have other priorities, and it's been limiting for them in that aspect. And for the ones that have adopted, it's a technology limitation. So, as Salim mentioned, in his prior, involvement with 3D printing, he was limited to bony anatomy. So bone is easy to replicate in some ways with plastics and tough resins, but soft tissue is a barrier, technology barrier. And so though some manufacturers of 3D printers have created semi-flexible resins, I would say, for example, Stratasys has the Tango resin that is a short 20 or a short 30A. It's still orders of magnitudes tougher than what we create. And so, the materials we're utilizing are mimicking liver tissue, which is very soft, or brain tissue, which is even softer. So that's where we are. And I think that the industry can move in a positive direction if more turnkey solutions became available to the healthcare industry. And I think with the creation of those reimbursement codes for billing, once the reimbursements start, kicking in, I think that's going to drive adoption, because right now it's cost limitations as well, where we don't want patients paying out of pocket, and hospitals, can only, spend so much time and effort and money into this. So really, standard of care conversion will require adoption from CMS here in the US. And I don't know how it works in India, but I'm sure that cost is a burden there as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, in India, the entire cost is on the patient. Patient has to take care of everything, and not everybody can afford high-end technologies and the solutions like that for their day-to-day medical care. And that's also one of the reasons why India is still not the first world nation. And that's why we want to learn from people like yourselves to understand how we can bring technology to India and reduce the cost as well, so that it becomes accessible and available to people at large scale as well. I want to move to Salim on this. So Salim, you have been a surgeon for so long. Now you're into health tech and as an advocate of innovation. How do you look at robo surgeries coming up, and with advent of 3D and even using soft tissues for creating 3D structures of the soft tissues? How do you look at robo surgeries and acceptability of that in places like US and other developed countries? Would you recommend that?
So I look at the health system from a standpoint of people accessing care and getting the right care that's safe, affordable, and accessible. That's timely, right? So those are the pillars, right? If you can't get care at the right time, if you can't afford it, if it's not safe, that's a fundamental issue, right? And right now, almost 5 billion people in the world don't have access to safe, affordable, timely care. And there are tools that are emerging that are components of the bigger orchestra. So 3D printing and robotics, they're important tools. But when you think of a country level, right, it's not that they are, so I can't say I recommend them or don't recommend them. It just depends, right? It depends. You shouldn't use any tool just to use it. But have I used them? Absolutely. And are they powerful and beneficial? Absolutely. So I'm not in a place to make a comment on recommending robotic. What I don't think is healthy is if you don't have, so a lot of times in certain areas, people will adopt a technology purely from a marketing standpoint to increase revenue, right? But they don't have the basic infrastructure for safe surgical care. And so that's one fear I would have is if you're in a hospital that has substandard management, operational management, and metrics on safety, to kind of just try to beat the other hospital through market by bringing robotic care, that doesn't make sense. But of course, the robots that are being developed are amazing and will have a role to play, but they have to fit into a health system that's also healthy and robust. So that's my comment there.
So what advice would you give to people who are actually innovating in this space right now, in the health tech, in the automation space for the healthcare ecosystem?
My biggest advice from a business standpoint, you have a choice regarding pricing. And historically, people come to America and you try to extract the maximum amount of money, right? The value. I would argue that the nature of our responsibility is to think through how can you deliver the best product and service at the lowest cost possible, right? So if you can focus on number of lives touched, that's an important metric. But I understand, I'm an investor, I've started multiple companies, but if you as a founder focus on saying, all right, how can I be profitable and focus on delivering the best product at the lowest price? Recently, there was a company in the US called it's Mark Cuban's company regarding drugs and Cost Plus. And what he did is he made it very transparent. He's like, look, the cost of the medication is the cost of the drug plus a 15% margin plus $5 for handling. That's it. Right. So instead of having some arbitrary margin that doesn't make any sense, he made it really transparent. And that company is growing very fast. And they're providing, drugs at a cost that is 10x lower than other pharmacy benefit management companies. But it's the orientation of the, you set the culture, you set the direction.
Excellent. I guess I'm aware of this company, the drug company of Mark Cuban. That's like they're selling generic medicines, the medicines which patent has been expired and now are available. And that's the reason why they're able to create it at a low cost and also sell it at a low cost because there's no licensing revenue required there.
Yes, and they're bypassing the pharmacy benefit management companies that create a fee schedule that is, not matched. So yeah.
Exactly. You mentioned a good point that lower the cost, increase the market adoption, or touch maximum life of maximum patient, and that's how a company would be able to scale. To not have the intention of just extracting money. So that's like a good tip for anybody who's starting new or been into this industry for a long time. I want to understand from Smriti one thing. So what we have seen in last 3-4 years is that after COVID, the perception about technology adoption in the healthcare system overall has changed drastically. Previous to that, doctors were not very keen in adopting technology. They were shying away from it. They were not even confident on the accuracy of it. But in today's time, post-COVID, things have changed drastically. I mean, it's a 180-degree shift in the mindset as well. So what has changed? What has brought more trust or confidence in doctors that they can embrace the technology? What do you think? You've been into the industry for so long and you have passed the COVID phase as well. I want to understand from you how the doctors are looking at the new technologies these days.
I don't know how to answer this question exactly, but I'll do my best. I think it could be the fact that, you know, what Elizabeth said earlier, that there is more awareness on the patient side, that maybe they are voicing their thoughts and opinions on new technologies and asking their doctors. You know, at Lazarus, you know, my friends and family, I encourage people in my community to ask their doctors certain questions. If they're going to go through surgical treatments, I encourage them to ask questions like, you know, what is the risk? How long will this surgery take? What has your historic success rate been? You know, what are the potential complications? And those kinds of questions. And really, how comfortable is this surgeon? How confident are they that it will be a positive outcome, that it will be a successful outcome? And how do they define success? So I encourage people to ask them those questions. I think with COVID, people have become more aware of new technologies and innovation. I think people have realized that one size does not necessarily fit all, and that precision medicine is the future, and, you know, the present too, more and more. With AI technologies and tools, with you know, at-home testing, remote patient monitoring tools, 3D printing technologies, AR, VR. I think all of these new tools are driving that awareness sort of by themselves, I would say, because they are innovative, because they're exciting, and they draw attention to themselves. It could be that that's what's driving this change.
All right, great take there. You mentioned about so many innovative technologies as well, like AR, VR, be it remote to patient care. All of these is helping for sure in creating more awareness about the health tech ecosystem overall. But now I want to move to Elizabeth with this. So Elizabeth, in one of your article, you mentioned that using emojis for communicating with patients will help the healthcare industry to improve on the patient care satisfaction index. Can you elaborate on this more? That how can use of emoji help the patient care satisfaction in the overall process?
Okay, yeah, sure, yeah. That was one of my last articles. Yeah, the use of emojis and like in general, like a simple language, a plain language, communicate with the patients. You make the goal of the emojis, as one of the examples there, is to make the health information more accessible. And especially like I always talk about the low level, like the huge amount of people that are in the low level of health literacy. So when you simplify the communication with the patients to make not to break it down the whole complex medical terms, and you make that simple, do emojis, do a plain language, do communications, do videos, educational videos, you make that easier for the patient to understand. Oh, like Dr. Salim, with history doing models like he was explained to break down, to make it easier to educate the patients, right? You want them to make it as much clear as possible for them, for their family members, for their caregivers, and to change. And that's one of the biggest points I see in the terms of the health tech, all the health tech of the technology. Okay, how can you use that and make the whole awareness and education of the patients? How can we make that possible to improve the health outcomes, right? That's the main goal. The health outcomes, and make the healthcare more equitable too. Okay, we have all this technology, but we still need to expand the awareness and the health equity across the health spectrum. So that's emoji is one of the techniques that you can use and in the animal orders too.
Yeah, so emojis are dynamic and also help you to explain things very simply, very beautifully, thereby increasing the confidence as well on the reports which have been generated.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you have the technology and okay, how can you educate the patients how to use that?
Right.
What's the preferred language of the patient, and how can you do that? The healthcare organizations can partner with the community organizations, right? Because they usually they build that in the whole trust relationship of the patient and the doctor. Right, so if the technology company come and you try to market that, if it's a consumer type of technology or device that you want the patient to use, how are you going? Okay, and your target audience, other patients, how are you going to build that trust? Reach out to the doctors. Usually there is this trust relationship between patient and the doctors. Reach out to community members or the organization, their community that they trust. And in a clear communication.
Excellent. So Elizabeth, continuing on this thread itself, can you also give a couple of advices or tips for a health tech company on the front of marketing? What sort of marketing strategy a health tech company should adopt?
For the health tech companies, depends. It depends on who are your target audience, right? Sometimes I work with different health tech organizations that they have different market target audience. They have payers, they are selling to hospitals, they are selling direct to the consumers, they are selling to pharmaceuticals, and it depends on who are their target audience. The language that you are going to use, how you're going to communicate that is different. So if you are selling your goal is to sell to the CEOs of the hospitals, you need to put, okay, what's the return on investment of your technology is providing, what's the evidence you have of your technology, all the case studies. You need to provide them with as much data as possible. And if you are selling to the consumer, directly to the patient, a great way, I just put it, is partner with the doctors, partner with the community members, with the local organizations that they trust, that they interact with, to build this trust and market direct to them.
Excellent. And what should be the marketing budget for a health tech company?
The budget for a health tech company?
Yeah.
I don't know, say I would say, 15-20%. You put 20% of your budget in marketing.
10% of the revenue?
Yeah, that's your revenue.
All right, 10 to 15%.
Yeah, 10 to 15%. So it would be a good start point.
Starting point. All right, good. Thanks for Elizabeth for sharing those things. And I could see Smriti making notes as well, noting down all the points on the marketing front. I'm sure she's going to use the wisdom which you shared on the panel today. Excellent. Thank you so much. So, Salim, I want to ask you from the investor perspective, what do you look for in a health tech company itself before you invest?
Well, there's a lot of factors. But if I want to break it down in a very simple way, there's 3 buckets of risk I look at.
Okay.
So one is technical risk. So what they want to do, what are the technical risks? Do they have to build it? Is it still research development? Is it, dependent on some other factors being completed, or is it actually really easy to build? The second category is about market risk. Like, do you have to educate the market? Do they know this? They need this. What's the sales cycle look like, right? Who are the clients? So what is the risk around the market? And third part is the execution risk. Does this team have a past history or experience in performing? And then within each of these 3 buckets, there's different criteria I look at, and some of them are non-negotiable, right? So the team, for example, it could be the first time entrepreneurs, that's fine. But they have to be, for me, amazing individuals who are grounded, that I can trust, that I feel inherently that these are people I want to work with and are workable and coachable, right? What I mean by that is sometimes people are not open for consultation, not arguing, but consultation, right? Because consultation is the process of like trying to find the truth, right? We're putting our minds together and we think this is the truth and we move forward, and then we realize it's not and we pivot. If they don't have that characteristic, it doesn't matter how amazing everything is, I'm not going to invest in it. But the reality is, in these three categories, I can only take a risk in one of them. So if you have a company that is doing something that's technically very difficult and the risk is there, then I need a team that has done this before, that knows how to build teams and scale. And I need to make sure the market is the numbers really make sense. I can't take a risk on both of them. So that's kind of the most basic way I could like describe how I like look at companies. And I usually know within 5 minutes if I'm interested or not in a company. So
Okay, all right. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, this is a very different take which I've ever heard when it comes to investing. You mentioned about the three risks, which are very great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I have a follow-up on that. So you mentioned about the risk. What about security when it comes to innovation? As an IP lawyer, I talk about getting the patents filed for your innovation so that it's secured and gives confidence to investor. Now, as an investor, how do you look at patents while investing, or overall for any health tech company? What is the role and importance of a patents in your opinion?
It depends on the long-term objective. If you're in the medical device space, it's very different than software.
Right.
Patents have different roles in different settings. If you're eventually going to be acquired, then they play a role there. But the reality is, most startups, doesn't matter if you have a patent or not, you can't defend it, right? So if someone infringes on it, you don't have enough of a budget to fight the big giants who are going to infringe on it. So people get hung up on it. I think, but if it's part of your strategic decision-making for acquisition, then you get that, because a company will then acquire you for those patents, and that company could fight the other competitors. So you just have to know what is the market, who are the stakeholders that'll come to play. But fundamentally, and it's more difficult in the software space. Now, I'll give a free legal tip here. I've gone through lots of patents. In the healthcare space, if you develop a new device, for example, and in your patent, you establish a safety protocol, right? So some process, what happens is, if you get granted that patent, that becomes a standard now. And then any competitor who builds anything in that space needs to match that, and they will infringe on your patent, right? So
Right.
that's a sneaky way in the legal side, right? To find out what are the safety components around what you're building, incorporate that into your patent. And that makes your patent much more weighty.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing that. And we also talk to all of our clients that use patents for getting acquired, use patents for doing marketing, use patents for stopping your competition. Of course, if the competition is smaller than you, then you can easily send them a notice saying that, we already got a patent and you are infringing upon us. But of course, if the competition is a large company, then it's better to send them a notice saying that, we are interested to sell our company to you because you are anyways infringing us. So why don't you acquire it? And those patents will basically open the doors for so many people as well, and they'll just welcome you. Preeti, what's your take on IP? Been on the academic side heavily. Want to understand your take as well.
Yeah, so I agree with what Salim said. Early stages, you protect the IP, you get the patent issued, and it takes some amount of investment to get there. And so let's say you've made it there, right? Now you find out that somebody is infringing on that. It depends on the magnitude of what they're doing with it, right? If they're really driving customers away from you, or if they're really becoming a problem, then you want to see, you want to look into it. And there might be some ways to just, startle them or just make them be cautious and be aware. Maybe they were not aware. So you can't blame people. You have to sort of give them that benefit of the doubt that maybe they were not aware. But once you have raised VC funding and you know that you can do more even before an acquisition occurs. It's a big risk for a startup, even at the later stages, even in the growth stage, post VC funding and backing, to go after those kinds of, litigation actions. But if you feel that that's the path you want to go forward with, then I feel like at least you're well capitalized to do that.
Right.
I like your advice of, why not just offer yourself up for an acquisition if they were a larger company. And if that's the case, I think a partnership or an M&A makes a lot of logical sense to pursue that path, as long as you are, of the understanding that this party will cooperate and will be a friendly party. So I think that those are all really good ideas. In my opinion, though, protecting the IP does hold value. Lazarus 3D has patents on its core technology, and we continue to innovate,
Fantastic.
continue to pursue, additional protections. I think trade secrets, it's another value. So look at Coca-Cola, right? So I think that you have to just know, what is your intent with this protection? It's going to cost you. So what's the benefit of it? You have to do those analyses before you, just sort of like pursue those opportunities.
All right, excellent. Good points. Good points. Thanks for sharing that. We are towards the end of the session as well. Before we do that, I want to have some quick tips from your side for the younger generation. So Salim, what will you teach, or what advice, 2 pieces of advice you want to give to a younger generation in this time? Those could be founders, people who are starting up their own ventures in the health tech industry. Advice for the younger generation in the health tech space.
I think it's just, you have to have a clear purpose of why you're doing it, and maintain empathy for those you're serving, right? And you're definitely, anything you're doing, you're trying to solve a problem. If you stay core to those principles and have the practice of reflecting and discussing, and as well as leaders being transparent about that process, you can build a culture within your team that embodies the mission versus just a tagline on your company. Because the hardest thing is scaling companies, right? When you have 5 people, 10 people, it's like a small tribe, things go well. But as soon as you start growing, you have to start putting protocols and processes in place. You start hiring people from outside, and you start to get bloated with cultural elements that are not true to you. So you have to be vigilant around developing the conditions so that the characteristics of what you want to see in your culture exist. Most companies grow, and then they have a problem, and then they bring in consultants to try to fix it, but that doesn't work effectively. Prevention is much better, and that's only for making time and space for reflection and discourse. And again, you have to make the time and space for that.
Excellent, excellent. Good points. In fact, I'm at Photon as well. We are also taking some of the helps in streamlining our things, streamlining our process as well, because we have been at a great growth journey so far, and we are taking help from the externals as well, who can help us in course correction before we go tangent to the direction which we want to go. Thank you so much, Salim, for sharing that. Smriti, your take, 2 pieces of advice for the younger generation.
Yeah, I would say that if you've identified a problem that, there is enough need for the solution, and you've, done your research and you believe that this is the path forward, a lot of times young people will create barriers for themselves. And, usually it starts out with something like, well, I want to achieve this, but, and then it's X, Y, and Z. A lot of times it's funding. I don't have funding. Or, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to form an LLC. I don't know how to write a patent. So many different things. But writing a provisional patent is very different, and it's achievable, if you have any technical writing skills, or even if you don't, you can learn that. So I think don't be a barrier for yourself is the takeaway. And if you believe in it, you will find a way, right? There's maybe a lawyer friend that you can talk to, or an entrepreneur that you can get guidance from in those early days. And I think your peers are here to help. You know, they're not going to say no. You just have to ask.
Excellent, excellent. Don't don't become bottleneck for yourself, and go ahead and ask for help if required. And you know what? Asking for help is itself a very tough task. A lot of people feel people are not able to go out and ask even their friends, family, relatives for any matter, and that is also causing a lot of stress as well to so many people. I mean, we've heard so many stories where entrepreneurs get burnout because they don't go and ask. So you touched upon very good points, Smriti. Thank you so much for sharing that. Elizabeth, what would be your piece of advice to anybody who's starting new?
Okay, yeah. I think if you are starting, and some of the things that Dr. Salim said and it's made brought up, I think, yeah, one, have your purpose, do our research, determine what are your goals, what you want to replace with your business. The other one I would say, like, and I was talking about that the other day with somebody else, it's like, don't be afraid to fail. You are going to commit a mistake along the way, and I made mistakes too. But like, more than that, I reach out to, like I said, go ask help. You reach out to other entrepreneurs in your industry, get the insight, to talk about the experience. And like, so many people there, when you reach out to them, and most of them are really going to be, they are open to share the experience, and they, like, you give it some time, you get free tips, free advices. And like Dr. Salim said, it is to be comfortable, to be uncomfortable, because that's the part of the journey as an entrepreneur every day.
All right. Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for sharing so many wisdom and so many pieces of knowledge. And I'm sure people who have joined us, who are seeing this live and post the session as well, are going to learn a lot from all of you. Now, I open the floor to you guys. If you have any question to ask each other or to ask me, go ahead. This is your time. Smriti, Elizabeth, Salim, do you want to ask any question to each other?
I'll go first. I have a question for
Yeah.
Elizabeth. So, you know, today there are so many different ways to do marketing through social media, for instance, right? So you have Instagram, you have Facebook, you have LinkedIn, and you have X. So how do you decide, you know, and then there's the traditional marketing approach. So you have your website and billboards, magazines, newsletters, etc. How do you prioritize or how do you sort of at low cost and low risk explore the ROI of, you know, what's the best path, or what is the best path for you as a medical device?
Okay. For you choose it the different social media platforms, and we go for start. Okay, who is your target audience, right? Where are they going to be? And like with a medical device, for example, that you are a lot B2B. So linking in terms of social media, linking it's really important. You need to be there. You need to build your presence on LinkedIn and create content, put that value out there, create your expertise and show that in there, and put different strategies to reach out to your target audience. There in front, even the whole LinkedIn edges, the newsletter, the live is, you need to really have a presence on LinkedIn, especially in that whole B2B. Instagram and Facebook, I would say it is a lot for the B2C. Then when you are at that point, if you are going to market it direct to the consumers, then it is in Facebook and Instagram are the way to go. And Instagram today a lot in video, right? So YouTube too. YouTube is another great resource. And YouTube now it is for the whole healthy information, like they are cleaning up and try to prevent the whole misinformation, all that. So that's a whole library of information about medical, about healthcare. So that's a great place to be there on YouTube. But yeah, in terms of social media, I would say, yeah, start in, for the B2B, start, yeah, I have a presence, which I have studied for LinkedIn.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Anyone else want to go ahead? All right. Yes, Smriti, do you have any questions for Salim?
Sure, I'll ask one. So one of the challenges that we've been facing is that, when we are, connected with doctors and surgeons at the health systems, they understand the value of this technology for their patients and for themselves. And they then need to communicate that to the admins, so the decision makers, and there's often more than just one decision maker. And so even if you knew the CEO of the health system, that's still not adequate, because you still have to go through their due process, and you still have to, convince all these non-healthcare experts and non-surgeons that this technology is important. So what do you feel is the best approach to navigate through that pipeline? Because I would have imagined that if the surgeon says, I really want this, it's meaningful to me and to my patients, that it has had a positive impact, that's not sufficient. I would have imagined that that would be the driver of adoption. So what, in your opinion, is the approach to, navigating through this funnel of the decision makers who you may or may not even know who they are?
So you just said this had a positive impact. So how do you measure that? That's the question they would ask, right? Is it, you could show me that there's decreased operative time, decreased complications? What is a measurement around that? So that's the question I would have for you. Have you guys done studies to show saving of time?
Yeah.
And then the second
and so typically, because it can vary from surgeon to surgeon or institute to institute, depending on where the baseline was, right? Because a highly trained surgeon is at a different baseline versus a surgeon starting out is at a different baseline. So usually what we do is a sort of like a trial with each of those folks. And we do have published literature and data demonstrating evidence, evidence-based studies and clinical pilots where we have demonstrated decreased operative time, decreased complication rates, decreased blood loss, increased patient satisfaction. We have case studies for all of that. But one can still argue that that's not for my institute. And so in that scenario, we often work with surgeons at that specific institute who is seeking adoption of this of PreSure, the preoperative platform. And then they are convinced, and it's from their own experience, and it's from their own assessment that they draw value. And that value could be that anesthesia time was reduced, or operative time was reduced, or there's a high risk tied to the procedure that was then avoided. And so those kinds of factors are what have been established in these scenarios, but yet it's a journey then to navigate through the through that remainder of the funnel that is actually the decision maker.
Right. So that's the first way, it was like that. But then the reality is, none of that really matters for the hospital, right? They want the ORs to be full. So the next question is, what's the other business unit? It's marketing. So if you say, hey, look, with this capability, we are able to close more cases. That means more people who come, decide to have an operation, and attract more people from our competitors. That's an argument that could be for expanding the business unit, right? So then you say, hey, here's what the total cost would be. Here's what the expected increase in revenue would be. That's a metric as well. So you have to think about hospitals from a business standpoint. It doesn't matter if it's a nonprofit or for profit. It's the same mentality, right? To be able to say, okay, we're going to spend money investing upfront in this. And then the question is, I don't know how you're modeling your business. Is it per unit? Is it, you have a capitated, like how you set up a center, but thinking through how can you make it so easy for them to see the number, the ROI, to say, look, we market this for 6 months, we're able to expand, you're able to add on increase your OR cases of the type you want. It gives you a competitive edge. Do you have, I don't know if you have, what do you call, non-compete clauses where someone can say, hey, if we bring you in, we don't want anyone in our region to have access to it. So we'll pay a premium for that, right? So we're the only ones with Lazarus 3D versus someone else. So these are all different models that potentially work. But I think it's too early in the healthcare side for like ACOs and value-based, care to actually start to invest in this. So unfortunately, you still have to think about the old-fashioned kind of increasing top line models.
Yeah, I think that like even though it's B2B, but marketing it B2C can drive potentially onboarding with the ACOs, where it's the people, it's the employees that are asking for it, and then it's the employers that are maybe going to listen. And I don't know how that process works, but some sort of a balance between that and navigating through that could be a path in the future. But right now, it's really the early adopters.
You also have to remember, it may not be even a commentary of what you're doing, how good it is. A lot of hospitals are having basic dumpster fires, right? They're barely surviving. So you coming in with this small little, relatively small kind of offering, it just falls in the background of all the noise and chaos that's happening. So sometimes you just have to find the right hospitals that are willing to have the appetite for having the right message.
Right. Agree. Thank you.
Excellent. Great session. Guys, I really enjoyed the conversation with all of you. You guys have been great givers, Smriti, Salim, Elizabeth. You have never shied away from sharing any knowledge, any wisdom, and you mastered all the answers as well. I tried to put you on spot as much as I could, but you guys answered all the questions fantastically. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. And I really hope to be in touch with all of you guys. And I also want to thank my audience who have been there listening to us, supporting us for the last 4 days. Thank you so much, guys. It has been a pleasure having you on the panel.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Brian.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, guys.
Bye.
Stay in touch.
Thank you.
Bye.